Good evening. This 83rd meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council is now called to order. Members of the council, due to us being a virtual meeting, please note that I will recognize you by saying you have the floor. Once I recognize you, please state your name and begin talking. Tonight's invitation will be delivered by Rabbi Ariana Katz-Haninu of the Baltimore Justice Fiscal. And following that, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. Rabbi?
Good afternoon, everyone. We open this time with an opportunity to step back and witness the magnitude of what lies before us. In a day, in a week, in a season when so much is so rushed, we take this moment to pause and breathe. We know that when we are rushed, we tighten. The work ahead of us is demanding, and there is much ahead of us. We know that when we are rushed, our shoulders seize up, our vision narrows, and our empathy is the first thing to go. Holy One of blessing, restore us to our most true selves. Remind our leaders the call that brought them to first serve our blessed city. Bring to their mind the faces of their constituents. Raise the flame of their passion for a just world. Lift up the rights of our unhoused and hungry neighbors over those who have more than enough. Open the way. Move us to expanse. May the hardened parts of our hearts soften. May the places where humanity gathers and hoards open up instead, that we might share abundance. May the fear that grips each of us as we move through the world alone instead connect us and cause us to turn to one another for comfort. May the potential of this moment be fully understood and honored. May the work of our hands be blessed. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and thank you again, Rabbi. Tonight's Showcase Baltimore presenter will be Margaret Henn, Esquire, from the Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service.
Well, thank you, Council President Scott and other members of the Council for having me today. I appreciate you inviting me to be here. I am the Director of Program Management at the Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service. For those who might not be as familiar with our organization, our goal is to connect low-income Marylanders who cannot afford an attorney with a pro bono attorney to help them on their civil legal matter. So last year, we had 675 volunteer attorneys serve over 5,600 Marylanders. And kinds of issues that we generally work on, I'll kind of give you a little overview of what we do at MVLS, but I think probably what's first on your mind, as it is on everyone's mind at this time, is what kinds of legal issues are your constituents facing during this pandemic and this crisis, and what you can do to help them get through those issues and to get the support and representation that they need. So I will talk a little bit about the types of calls that we're getting most frequently at this point in time after I talk a little bit about what MVLS does generally. So we have 6 areas of law that we focus on. The largest area is family law, and that's child custody and divorce cases primarily. We do a large number of housing and consumer-related cases, things like foreclosure and tax sale foreclosure. We do a large number of criminal record expungements. We do estate planning and administration, and we do income tax cases. So many of you are probably aware that there is a right to counsel in criminal cases, but there is no right to counsel in civil legal cases right now. So what that means is that, according to a study that was done in Maryland a couple years ago, 80% of low-income litigants go unrepresented in their civil legal case. They have no right to counsel. And as you can imagine, if you've ever been involved in any kind of a legal matter, the outcomes for those clients are very different than the outcomes for a client who has an attorney who's familiar with the legal system. So just kind of as an example, there's one client we've actually been working with for a couple years ago now. I'll just call her Miss D to protect her identity, but she has a home. It's in the Penn North neighborhood. It's her family home. Her mother lives there, and she lived there for many years herself. Unfortunately, at this point in time, she's not able to stay in that house due to a leak that happened in the house and mold that resulted, and a number of other issues that make the house unlivable. So how this all started is that her mother passed away about 12 years ago, unfortunately, and she went to the Register of Wills and she opened an estate to try to transfer the property into her own name. And she did different steps of the process. She was advised along the way, but unfortunately, she just never really got to that final step in the process of transferring the house. She didn't know that she wasn't doing it correctly. And so the house later experienced a leak, a very large water bill. It went into tax sale, and that's how she originally came to MVLS. This was a couple years ago. And we helped her work through a payment plan with DPW. We're able to get the property off the tax sale list. And then we realized that she wasn't going to be able to get the repairs that she needed to the house due to the mold and everything else that was going on in the property because of the water leak, because she couldn't access any kind of loans or grant programs because the property was not in her name. So now she's working with a second attorney. So she's now been working with MVLS since 2015, so for 5 years, and her mother passed away again 12 years ago to try to get this house into her name. She is currently staying with a friend, so she's effectively homeless because she's not able to live in her house right now. So just kind of to give an example of someone who tried to navigate the legal system on their own, she was doing everything as best she could, and has now had this legal issue that's been dragging on for literally over a decade and has left her effectively homeless. So this is just kind of, we have an attorney who's working with her right now, and within the next couple months should be able to effectively get the deed into her name so she can make the repairs. So this is just kind of an example of what the difference that having an attorney can make for these clients. Just to talk a little bit about what kind of uptick we've seen in recent calls related to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have had a lot of people calling about their tax stimulus checks, as I'm sure you all have as well, especially for that public benefits recipients, people who didn't file taxes because they were not required to file taxes in the last couple years. And so the government may not have their bank account information on file to give them their check, and now they're wondering where the check is and how to get it. So that's something we've been working with people on. Calls for advanced healthcare directives. Unfortunately, that has been an issue that people have started to think about a little bit more, especially seniors, as they think about the healthcare situations they could find themselves in with this crisis, and just making sure that they're prepared for that. A lot of child visitation and custody disputes, people who are concerned that the other parent of their child isn't properly social distancing, isn't doing things that are safe, or that person does have to go to a job where they're in danger and they're putting themselves, or they have to be at risk because their job requires that, and they're worried about the safety of that child in that situation. And then we are expecting, although we think we've kind of only seen the tip of the iceberg right now, just a large surge of cases, housing and consumer cases, because of the number of people that are unemployed and just struggling to make ends meet right now. So there's been a lot of challenges around the court closures. We have one client that we're working with right now who she was getting temporary disability of just $210 a month. She finally got approved for her final disability payment, and a back payment was deposited into her bank account. And then it was almost immediately garnished by her lender, who's Bank of America. And for people whose only source of income is Social Security disability and they have no other assets, their creditors are actually not allowed to garnish their bank account. However, with the courts not being open for hearings right now, our attorney who's working on this case had some challenges in, normally she would file a motion to have a hearing and say that that person's account hadn't been garnished, but wasn't able to do that. So those are just kind of the challenges that are going on for clients and what we've been seeing recently. I also wanted to make sure that for those of you who have constituents that you wanted to refer for free legal services, you know how to do that. Our website is mvlslaw.org. Our phone number is 410-547-6537, and we do intake for new clients Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We have all of our income guidelines and all the information about the types of cases we handle on our website. So I would invite you to take a look at our website if you do have any questions, or feel free to reach out to me. I'll make sure you all get my information. With that, I do want to thank you again for having me tonight, and please, we're very open to having you reach out to me with any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Roll call. The clerk will now call the roll of the members.
President Scott.
Present.
Councilman Cohen.
Present.
Councilwoman McCray.
Present.
Councilman Dorsey.
Present.
Councilman Henry.
Here.
Councilman Schleifer.
Present.
Vice President Middleton.
Present.
Councilman Pinkett.
Present.
Councilman Burnett.
Present.
Councilman Bullock.
Present.
Councilman Reisinger.
Present.
Councilman Costello.
Present.
Councilman Stokes.
Present.
Councilwoman Sneed.
Here.
Councilwoman Clark.
Here also.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now proceed with the adoption of the journal.
Mr. President, the journal of the April 27th, 2020 proceedings are in the council members' inbox.
Without objection, the journal will be adopted. The journal is adopted. Bills to be introduced.
City Council Bill 20-0527, Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021, for the purpose of providing the appropriations estimated to be needed by each agency of the City of Baltimore for operating programs and capital projects during the fiscal 2021 year. Sponsored, City Council President on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Budget and Appropriations Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0528, Annual Property Tax, Fiscal Year 2021, for the purpose of providing a tax for the use of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore for the period July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021, providing for estimated billing pursuant to state law and setting a semi-annual payment service charge for that period. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Budget and Appropriations Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0529, Property Tax, in-rem foreclosure and sale, vacant and abandoned property, for the purpose of requiring the Director of Finance to withhold from tax sales certain real property designated by the Board of Estimates for foreclosure and sale under a certain process, authorizing the mayor and city council acting by and through the Department of Housing and Community Development to initiate an in rem foreclosure and sale of certain real property for delinquent taxes, authorizing the mayor and city council to enact certain laws authorizing in rem foreclosure and sale of certain real property, authorizing the mayor and city council acting by and through the Department of Housing and Community Development to commence an in rem foreclosure action, prohibiting commencing an in rem foreclosure action until tax on real property has been delinquent for a certain period and the right to appeal a certain notice has told foreclosure action, requiring any foreclosure action under this subtitle be filed in the Circuit Court of Baltimore City, and that notice of and a copy of the complaint be sent to each interested party within a certain period of time and in a certain manner, requiring the complaint for an in rem foreclosure to include certain information, allowing the complaint for an in rem foreclosure to be amended for certain purposes, providing that an interested party has a right to cure certain delinquent taxes and liens on the real property under certain circumstances, requiring a hearing on the in rem foreclosure complaint to be conducted at a certain time, providing that an interested party has the right to be heard at the hearing, requiring the court to enter a certain judgment on a certain finding, requiring the judgment to be recorded in certain land records, providing that title acquired in a certain foreclosure proceeding shall be a certain absolute and or fee simple title except under certain circumstances, providing that a judgment in an action under the subtitle is binding and conclusive regardless of legal disability on certain persons, defining certain terms, providing for a special effective date, and generally relating to in rem foreclosure and sale of tax, delinquent, vacant, and abandoned property. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration.
This bill has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0530, Post-COVID-19 Foreclosure Disincentive Act of 2020. For the purpose of temporarily setting the transfer tax on certain foreclosed properties in Baltimore City at 100% of the property's taxable basis, providing for a special effective date, and providing for a termination date. Sponsor, Dorsey.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I don't think any of us knows when this state of emergency is going to come to an end, or what transition rules are going to be in place at such a time. I am very concerned about the pressure that will be placed on property owners and renters by banks and other equity lenders. I don't know what other steps anybody else may take to prepare for that moment at any other level of government, federal or state. But I feel it's important for us to be doing everything that we can, not only to prepare for that, but to anticipate the length of time that it is going to take for people to recover and stabilize from current circumstances. And so what this bill does is seeks to prevent the kind of pressure that might be placed, particularly on tenants from landlords who basically may say, look, I gotta get you moved along swiftly because the bank is gonna foreclose on me. And being able to remove the pressure from those banks and lenders is the intention here by disincentivizing foreclosure, by creating a significant tax on properties that are being foreclosed upon to try to relieve some of that pressure, and to do that for the length of time of a year from the time of the end of the state of emergency, because I really think that it's going to take a very long time to recover from this, and that we need to do everything that we can to prepare for a long road ahead. Thank you, Mr. Council President.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0531, rezoning 3006, 2926, and 2928 Bullman Avenue and Block 3185, Lot 49, for the purpose of changing the zoning for the property known as 3006 Bullman Avenue, as outlined in red in the accompanying plat, from the I-2 zoning district to the TOD2 zoning district, and for changing the zoning for the properties known as 2926 Bullman Avenue and 2928 Bullman Avenue and Block 3185, Lot 49, as outlined in blue on the accompanying plat, from the R7 zoning district to the TOD2 zoning district, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsor, Middleton.
Chair recognizes Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a parcel of land that basically sits in a dead-end corner. Boorman Avenue is at kind of the dead-end corner of East Wabash and West Cold Spring Lane, right before you get to the railroad, before the railroad tracks, and where the light rail is situated. And the piece of property that was bought by a private developer, and they explained why they needed this process to happen with the community, with the businesses in the area, and of course with the Park Heights Renaissance, which are the overseers of development in that area. We know that Park Heights for many years has been going through and delivering human service needs and going through the acquisition and relocation of many residents in Park Heights. And this will be one of the first development pieces that's going to start very soon. They also have to put in an application for the state as well. And so we're going to try to expedite this hearing to get this moving. This particular piece of land is going to be an apartment rental property, green certified, and all of the good bells and whistles. They're definitely going through the process of seeking minority participation, and I'm sure they're going to talk about all this at the hearing that I see is scheduled in land use. So this is going to be one of the first development pieces in Park Heights that's going to be connected to other development pieces that are going to be kicking off right there on Park Heights Avenue as well. So looking forward to the hearing and getting this moving in the southern part of Park Heights. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Vice President. This has been assigned to the Land Use Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0532, temporary street space for pedestrians and cyclists, for the purpose of requiring the Department of Transportation to provide additional street space for pedestrians and cyclists during the pendency of certain temporary spacing orders, requiring that the provision of additional street space be distributed equitably throughout the city, setting forth certain factors for the department to consider when providing additional street space, providing for the expiration of additional street space requirements, requiring certain reports, defining certain terms, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsor, Council President Scott, Dorsey, Vice President Middleton, Bullock, Clark.
Please add Councilman Burnett as a co-sponsor, Councilman Henry as a co-sponsor, Councilman Stokes as a co-sponsor, Councilman Cohen as a co-sponsor. Thank you all. I think we all know that COVID-19 has changed the way our lives are going to be for now and probably forever. Please add Councilman Costello as a co-sponsor. However, we all know that we're going to be facing warm weather in the coming weeks to months, and people in neighborhoods in Baltimore, it's going to be a lot harder for them to remain solely indoors. And we've seen across the country, cities have created opportunities for their citizens to practice physical distancing while also being able to be outside and enjoying the weather, not having to live in conditions inside of homes that we know will exist in Baltimore City as soon as we have our first 80-degree day. We have the opportunity here to pass legislation that will provide opportunities for people to do that while protecting them, protecting our critical workers who are doing the good work in our city. But also, it's very important that we do this piece of legislation through a lens of equity, so our most vulnerable neighborhoods and the neighborhoods where this is the most needed are also considered. So I be very thankful to my co-sponsors, and I look forward to a robust conversation. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Thank you for your leadership on this, and thank you for your partnership on this. Thank you for having me, for asking me to contribute to the drafting of this bill. I think that it's a great opportunity for all of us as council members to take some stake in ensuring that space is provided for people in each of our districts. We all know our districts very well, and what this bill asks is that there be an equitable distribution of space made on the basis of council districts throughout the city. It's really important not just for people to have space on their streets for recreation, but also that we be looking for opportunities for basic transportation needs to be met throughout our city as well. We still have a lot of people crowding onto buses when it's still unhealthy and unsafe for people to be in those kind of confined conditions, and people not having enough space to walk on city streets. We're asking people to social distance at a distance of 6 feet on 5-foot wide sidewalks. And so creating more space for people to walk, more space for people to cycle, is an opportunity not just to make that safer for the people who are already doing it, but to invite more people to do it as an alternative to crowding onto buses or engaging in really unaffordable transportation practices like ride sharing. I really want to thank the council president for putting this forth, and I look forward to a hearing which I'm going to announce for later this week.
Thank you. Please add Councilwoman Sneed and Councilman Seifler as co-sponsors as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Resolutions to be introduced.
Mr. President, you have to announce the assignment.
Oh, this has been assigned to the Transportation Committee. Sorry. Resolutions to be introduced.
City Council Resolution 20-0217R, informational hearing, sanitation of buildings under the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program and HUD Regulatory Authority for the purpose of inviting the Housing Authority of Baltimore City and firms that co-own affordable housing with the authority under the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, as well as the managers of multifamily housing units regulated by HUD to report to the City Council regarding how common areas of the buildings in these programs are sanitized during the COVID-19 pandemic. Sponsors: Stokes, Vice President Middleton, Bullock, Clark.
Please add the Council President as a co-sponsor, Councilman Burnett as a co-sponsor to this legislation. Chair recognizes Councilman Pinkett. Chair recognizes Councilman Henry as a co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes. Oh, there you go. You're good.
I'm sorry. I wanted to have this hearing because I've been getting a lot of calls from our seniors about their maintenance and telling them that they're sanitizing or they're cleaning of the building. They physically don't see it because if they're in their apartments, they don't see it. So the idea was to make sure they come before the council to make sure we know it also, but also post those cleaning days and times either in the common areas or on the elevator. So when the seniors come out to get their mail, they at least feel a lot better about that. They see it being done because it's posted. So thank my colleagues for all their support on this.
Thank you. This has been assigned to the Health Committee.
City Council Resolution 20-0218R, recognizing systemic racism as a public health crisis. For the purpose of recognizing systemic racism as a public health crisis. Sponsors: Stokes, Dorsey, Vice President Middleton, Clark.
Please add Council President Scott as a co-sponsor, Councilman Burnett as a co-sponsor, Councilman Cohen, Councilman Henry as a co-sponsor, Chair Record, Councilman Bullock, Councilman Pinkett. All right, Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes. Councilman?
You good? I'm introducing the City Council resolution to recognize systemic racism as a public health crisis. You know, it just happened in Milwaukee. They just did it in Pennsylvania. So the COVID-19 pandemic has been a lightning rod for further affirms the need to address social, economic, and emotional ills that's plagued our city for generations. Here's an opportunity for us to work together to combat the widespread problem. I look forward to advancing the discussion and working on solutions. And again, I'd like to thank my colleagues for their support.
Councilman, Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes. Councilman, you wanted this one for immediate adoption, correct?
Not this one. This is going to be a hearing. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This has been assigned to the Equity and Structure Committee.
City Council Resolution 20-0219R, Teacher Appreciation Week 2020, for the purpose of recognizing the week of May 4 through May 8 as Teacher Appreciation Week and celebrating all of Baltimore City's hardworking teachers who have continued to educate our children during this crisis. Sponsors: Stokes, Vice President Middleton, Bullock, Clark.
Please add the Council President as co-sponsor, Councilman Pinkett, Councilman Burnett, Councilman Henry, Councilman Cohen, anybody else, Councilwoman Sneed. Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Okay, thanks again to my colleagues. I would like to take this out, even though, you know, that was the 4th through the 8th, the Teachers Appreciation, but I'd like to take this opportunity to submit this resolution. Appreciate y'all teachers. They're the fabric and stitches of our education system by touching the lives and minds of our young people. National Teachers Appreciation Week was officially observed from May the 4th through the 8th this year. But I feel their hard work and commitment to our children's education during an unprecedented time requires our sincere thanks and public recognition by the council. Thank you all for your particular during this COVID-19 crisis. Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the rules for immediate adoption.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Roll call.
President Scott.
Yes.
Councilman Cohen.
Yes.
Councilman McCray.
Yes.
Councilman Dorsey.
Yes.
Councilman Henry.
Yes.
Councilman Schleifer.
Yes.
Vice President Middleton.
Yes.
Councilman Pinkett.
Yes.
Councilman Burnett.
Yes.
Councilman Bullock.
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger.
Yes.
Councilman Costello.
Yes.
Sponsor Stokes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sneed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark. Councilwoman Clark.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. The ayes have it. The motion is approved. This resolution has been adopted.
City Council Resolution 20-0220R, Department of General Services update on sanitizing city-owned buildings for the purpose of requesting that the Department of General Services provide the City Council with an update on how employees of DGS have been keeping city-owned buildings clean during the COVID-19 pandemic and post information about cleaning schedules in these buildings. Sponsors: Stokes, Vice President Middleton, Bullock, Clark.
Please add the Council President, Councilman Burnett, Councilman Henry, Councilman Pinkett as co-sponsors. Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I want to thank my colleagues for this, their support on this. What actually just happened at City Hall about some things that actually happened at City Hall with some of your staff, you know. But I've been looking at when the governor starts putting his plan in, and we eventually might be going back into City Hall, as soon as the way I'm doing it with the senior buildings, I think that needs to be also with the city-owned buildings, but not just City Hall, but other buildings to make sure that the building is being cleaned correctly. And again, Make sure it's posted in common areas on the elevator in those areas, so when we go back to not just City Hall, but other city halls and buildings, our city employees feel safe, and I thank you for your support.
Thank you, Councilman. This resolution has been assigned to the Health Committee.
City Council Resolution 20-0221R, National Nurses Week 2020. For the purpose of recognizing National Nurses Week 2020 and acknowledging the dedication and contributions of nurses everywhere, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Sponsors, Stokes, Vice President Middleton, Bullock, Clark.
Please add the Council President, Councilman Burnett, Councilman Henry, Councilman Pinkett as co-sponsors, Councilman Cohen as a co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank my colleagues for their support. Today I submit to City Council this resolution in recognition of our National Nurses Week 2020. The nurses are on the front line every day keeping us healthy. During the pandemic, they have shown their commitment to calling to save our lives while putting themselves in harm's way. I think I speak for my council colleagues when I say thank you today and every day for all you do to keep us healthy. Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the rules for immediate adoption.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Roll call.
President Scott.
Yes.
Councilman Cohen.
Yes.
Councilwoman
Yes.
Councilman Dorsey.
Yes.
Councilman Henry.
Yes.
Councilman Schleifer.
Yes.
Vice President Middleton.
Yes.
Councilman Pinkett.
Yes.
Councilman Burnett.
Yes.
Councilman Bullock.
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger.
Yes.
Councilman Costello.
Yes.
Sponsor Stokes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Snead.
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark.
Yes.
There we go. The ayes have it. The motion is approved. This resolution has been adopted.
City Council Resolution 20-0222R. Let's get the word out, making your mail-in vote count. For the purpose of calling on the City of Baltimore, the League of Women Voters, and the ACLU of Maryland to publicize important facts to avoid confusion and to make every vote count on June 2nd, 2020, primary election day. Sponsors, Clark, Vice President Middleton, Bullock.
Please add the Council President, Councilman Stokes, Councilman Cohen, Councilman Pinkett, Councilman Burnett, Councilman Henry as co-sponsors, Councilwoman Snead as a co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark, Councilman Dorsey as Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you very much for your co-sponsorship. Since I'm not running, I thought I was the appropriate person to bring this resolution to the council. And I do so because this is a whole new, like everything else in life, this is a whole new experience for us, having mail-in ballots for everybody. And I think it's very important for us to remind ourselves, as well as our general public, about a couple things. First of all, when we open up our envelope to fill out our ballot, we will notice that the date on the ballot says April 28th. That's because the state election board did not change to the correct date of June 2nd, 2020. But do not call and say you got the wrong ballot. It's the right ballot with the wrong date. Even more important in a way is, I don't know how this is going to work on TV. It's probably be reversed. Can you see this? Well, I don't guess you can. The most important thing is this. When we fill in our ballot, put it in the envelope, seal it shut, don't lick, but that's what they say, don't lick. But when we do that, we must, there's a little oath that will be printed up here, and under it we must sign our name, we must print our name, and we must date it. But if we have not signed our name, when that shows up in the mail at Board of Elections downtown, it goes right in the trash because it doesn't have a name. Because remember, it's a secret ballot. So the reason our name has to be on the back of the envelope is because as soon as that envelope is open and discarded, nobody knows whose vote that is. And that's the way it should be. So sign the back of the envelope. Be sure to vote. And they'd like you to use a black pen, but that's not going to throw us out of, we're not going to get thrown out of a vote if we use another color pen. But don't forget to sign on the back. And by the way, the earlier we vote when we get the ballot, the better it is, because I don't know about your mail lately, but mine is coming slow. And so I want to make sure I get in there. It's got to be postmarked by June 2nd. So thank you, colleagues, for letting me tell everybody what we all have to remember ourselves. Sign the back of that envelope, but don't forget to fill out the ballot. Thank you. Oh, can I suspend the rules for immediate adoption, please? Motion on the floor.
Yep, without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Roll call.
President Scott.
Yes.
Councilman Coleman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray.
Yes.
Councilman Dorsey.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Schleifer.
Yes.
Vice President Middleton.
Yes.
Councilman Pinkett.
Yes.
Councilman Burnett.
Yes.
Councilman Bullock.
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger.
Yes.
Councilman Costello.
Yes.
Councilman Stokes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sneed.
Yes.
Foster Clark.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you all.
The motion is approved. This resolution has been adopted.
City Council Resolution 20-0223R, approval for the exchange of a Class BD7 license for use at 3607 Fleet Street to a Class A7 license for use at 5601 Eastern Avenue, known as 5701A Fleet Street, for the purpose of providing the required approval under Maryland Code Annotated Alcohol and Beverage, Section 12-902.1C4, to allow the license holder holding a valid Class B7 beer, wine, and liquor license issued for use at 3607 Fleet Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21224, to apply to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City to exchange their Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license for a Class A7 beer, wine, and liquor license for use at 5601 Eastern Avenue, known as 5701A Fleet Street. Sponsor, Coleman.
Chair recognizes Councilman Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are asking for your support on this. This is a new development. The developer has invested enormous amount of his own funds into this development. It's simple ask for him to be able to have this license. Appreciate my colleague's support on this. It's going into a site that used to be a literally toxic chemical plant. It's the old PEMCO site that is being redeveloped into Yard 57. We're excited about it and look forward to moving this forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. This has been assigned to the Judiciary Committee.
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we read short titles on second and third reader for the duration of the hearing.
Councilman, can you table that? We still have another resolution.
My apologies, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
City Council Resolution 20-0224R, request for state action, override veto House Bill 1300, blueprint for Maryland's future implementation. For for the purpose of calling on the Maryland General Assembly to override the governor's veto and pass House Bill 1300, Blueprint for Maryland's Future Implementation, that will protect the educational rights and the future of all of Maryland's students. Sponsors, President Scott, Dorsey, Vice President Middleton, Bullock.
Please add Councilwoman Sneed as a co-sponsor, Councilman Clark, Councilman Pinkett, Councilman Burnett, Councilman Henry, Councilman Cipher as co-sponsors to the resolution, Councilman Cohen as a co-sponsor. Thank you
Mr.
all.
President, please add me as well. Thank you.
Councilwoman McCray as a co-sponsor. I was deeply saddened. Oh, Councilman Stokes as a co-sponsor. I saw you, Councilman. Thank you. We all understand, again, that COVID-19 has changed the world. But when we're going through a crisis like this, investing in our future becomes even more important. I was deeply saddened that the governor decided to veto the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. The children of Baltimore, our leaders of tomorrow, were depending on a once-in-a-generation opportunity to have schools that are equitably funded and trained for the jobs and the careers of tomorrow. We were ready. Nearly a year ago, I introduced a resolution talking about preparing for Kirwan or the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. Without the promise of Kirwan's funding, these students will once again be left to pick up the pieces of a broken system, and we all know what's going to happen. We all know that children in many of our neighborhoods in Baltimore are going to be further behind the ball because they will not get a once-in-a-lifetime change of something that should have been done a long time ago in one of the wealthiest states in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. Us not fully funding our school is embarrassing. And I often say, I wonder what my life and the life of my friends would have been, how different it would have been if we had fully invested in our schools back when I was there. How many more of my friends would be alive? How many more wouldn't be in jail? How many more wouldn't be addicted to drugs and struggling if we had done this? So what we are simply saying with this resolution is asking our great folks at the state who did the great work of passing this most important piece of legislation in our lifetimes to tell the governor again that they are right and he is wrong and override the people. Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to move to the resolution for immediate adoption.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Roll call.
President Scott.
Yes.
Councilman Cohen.
Yes.
Councilwoman McCray.
Yes.
Councilman Dorsey.
Yes.
Councilman Henry.
Yes.
Councilman Schleifer. Councilman Schleifer.
Yes.
Vice President Middleton.
Yes.
Councilman Pinkett.
Yes.
Councilman Burnett.
Yes.
Councilman Bullock.
Yes.
Councilman Bullock.
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger.
Yes.
Councilman Costello.
Yes.
Councilman Stokes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sneed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Ayes have it, the motion is approved. This resolution has been adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it had been my intention to ask you to allow an introduction from the floor of a resolution to ask the Board of Estimates to hold off on the scheduled July 1 water rate increase. But what I now understand is that not everyone received a copy of the resolution in advance. And so I am hesitant to move forward a resolution for immediate adoption if everyone has not received a copy. So unless I would receive universal consent that resolution was received and read and understood and agreed with, I am inclined to ask the President to let me hold off on this until next week, and it will just be submitted during the normal Hopper deadline. Okay, that's what I'm asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Committee reports. We will now remove to bills and second reader.
Mr. President,
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we read short titles on second and third reader for the duration of the meeting.
Without objection, we will read short titles for the remainder of the meeting. Short titles will be read for the remainder of the meeting. Budget and Appropriations Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0521, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Sheriff, $37,600.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is amendment to the bill in my colleague's inbox or desk. At this time, I move the amendment favorably.
All those in favor of approving the amendment, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The amendments are approved. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably as amended.
All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The motion is approved. This bill is approved. Equity and Structure Committee.
City Council Bill 19-0379, Charter Amendment, Ordinance of Estimates.
Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we discussed at lunch, I'm going to move at this point to have this bill referred back to committee so that we can consider additional amendments to it.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. The motion is approved. This bill will be recommitted to committee.
City Council Bill 19-0380, Charter Amendment, Removal of Elected Officials.
Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. This charter amendment has amendments passed by the committee. The amendments should be on council members' desks. So I move the amendments.
All those in
Mr.
favor.
President,
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Mr. President, if it's okay, could we ask the sponsor to give just a 15 or 20 second summary of what those amendments are at a very high level?
Sure. Chairman Henry, do you want to do that, or you want to turn to Councilman Burnett?
I'm happy to yield the floor to Councilman Burnett, or I can do it myself. Councilman? Okay.
Councilman Henry?
Okay, so basically the sponsor added additional amendments that would create a process under which, along with what the charter amendment already did, which was create a standard process under which any elected official at the city level could be removed for cause. And that would, they would be given a chance to speak in front of the city council, and then it would require a supermajority vote of the council to remove them for cause. The sponsor requested, at the request of, I believe, constituents, this was some of the public input that we received, people wanted a way in which the public at large could also essentially instigate this process. And so this would create an additional procedure in which if 20% of the registered voters in the city signed a petition, and that petition was validated, that petition would be the equivalent of the mayor or the inspector general presenting charges to the city council, and would kick off the process of the elected official having a chance to come and explain themselves in front of the council, and then the council having a vote. Is that a fair representation, Councilman Burnett?
Yeah, sorry, I was having issues getting off here, so I was letting you sum it up.
Yes, you recognize Councilman Burnett. Are you good? All right, Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. All those in favor of approving the amendment, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay, Mr. President.
Nay.
Please
I'd
note.
like to explain my vote, but defer to my colleague, Councilwoman McCray first. She's in the second.
Councilwoman McCray is a no.
I'm a nay. I don't need to explain it.
All right, and please note that Councilman Costello is a no. Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chairman Henry, first, thank you for your explanation of the amendments. That was very helpful. Mr. President, as you recall, during the time that the two of us collected signatures from each of our colleagues to draft a letter calling for former Mayor Pugh's resignation, we did find ourselves in quite a legal predicament in that there was not a mechanism within the charter to remove a mayor from office. Certainly that is something that should the council decide to move on, should do so very judiciously under a very set of extreme circumstances, which is what we found ourselves unfortunately under, not by any making of the city council, but we found ourselves in those circumstances, our city as a whole, last spring, and needed to do what we were able to do on the council end. Again, recognizing that there's not a current mechanism in the charter to remove a mayor from office. Chairman Henry, while I certainly appreciate the committee's efforts to ensure due process, as anyone in this country should be afforded, regardless of the forum, whether it's administrative court, criminal court, or proceedings for removal of office, and certainly can appreciate the initiative to include some type of trigger for public requests for removal of office, similar to whether you want to call it a recall election, which is what we have in other states in the Midwest. I'm concerned that this legislation is inconsistent with what other jurisdictions in the state of Maryland have in terms of removal of elected officials from office. And I'm also concerned with the subjective nature of the language that could trigger the removal from office. So I want to be clear that I am fully in support of having a mechanism in place for the removal of an elected official from office who breaks the trust of the people that have elected them to represent them. That being said, though, I disagree with the specifics in this bill and would be in favor of a different mechanism. So because of those reasons, I vote no. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other nays? All right. The ayes have it. The bill is moved favorably.
Yeah, that was, I thought that was the vote on the amendment.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. The amendments are approved. Chair recognizes Councilman Ingram.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably as amended.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, aye, aye.
All opposed say nay.
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 Please note.
Mr. President, my justification rather refers to not the amendments, but the bill in general as amended. Thank you, Mr.
Yep.
President.
Please note Councilman Costello and Councilwoman McCray as nays. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader. Health Committee.
City Council Resolution 20-0194, informational hearing, Baltimore's strategic response to the Wuhan coronavirus.
Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. President. We held a hearing on April 28, 2020. There is an amendment on the council member's desk. The amendment will remove the word Wuhan from the resolution, and I would like to move the amendment.
All those in favor of approving the amendment say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All opposed say nay. The amendment is approved. Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
All right. Okay, I move the bill favorably as amended.
All those in favor of approving this resolution as amended say aye.
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 All opposed say nay.
Yeah. And I now would like to make a motion to recommit or return the resolution to the Health Committee.
Okay, Councilman, so you're recommitting the bill. All those in favor of recommitting the bill as amended to committee, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The motion is approved. The bill is recommitted to committee. Land Use Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0526, Baltimore City COVID-19 Renter Relief Act.
Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Okay, Mr. President, could you repeat what bill is that in land use?
This is 20-0526, the Renter Relief Act, Council.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. President, I was unable to chair the committee hearing that day, and so I'd like to defer to the vice chair of the committee who held the hearing, Councilwoman Sanders Sneed, please.
Yep, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Sneed to give us announcements of the hearing. Councilwoman Sneed.
Sure. So we went back and forth with over, I think, 3 or 4 amendments on the bill. And two of the amendments, I'm sorry, I don't have my notes in front of me. I wasn't, but I think 2 of the amendments we were supposed to actually vote on the floor today because we need a further explanation about the commercial part of it that Councilman Ed Reisinger had brought up, and I think the other one was actually, I don't know what the other one was now that I think about it.
Councilman Reisinger has all the amendments, and he'll get to those in just 1 second.
And so that was basically the gist of it. We all supported actually moving forward to protect renters, to make sure that the rent doesn't go up, that the fees and all that are included. And so that's the gist of the bill. Please step in if I missed anything.
Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Appreciate it. I make a motion to move the agency amendments.
Mr. President, point of order, Mr. President.
Yeah, Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. As everyone on this council, as well as staff, are aware, there was an inordinate amount of citizens today with respect to 2 proposed amendments, one of which had to deal with changing language in the bill from retrospective to prospective, and the second amendment dealing with the inclusion of commercial properties or commercial tenants, pardon me, in this bill. My understanding, those amendments are not being voted on tonight. I would appreciate if the chair and/or you, Mr. President, would confirm that, because many of our listeners at home are probably not clear on what exactly is being voted on tonight. So if we could just go through those amendments to eliminate any potential confusion. I hate to make more of a burden for you, Mr. President, or the chair, or Madam Co-Chair, or Vice Chair, but I want to be clear for everyone out there as to what exactly is being done. Thank you for your consideration, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger, who will go through the amendment.
Yeah, Mr. President, the one amendment that I was contemplating in regards to businesses and commercial, I am not going to introduce that amendment. It's very complicated, and what I was recommended was that if I do it, is to introduce a bill. So that amendment will not be coming out on the floor.
And likewise, Councilman, the amendment about a prospective will also not be coming out. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So thank you, Councilman Costello. I move the agency amendments.
A second.
Those in favor of approving the agency amendment, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
I have to, Mr. President, I need to abstain.
Yes, please note.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please
Is this,
note,
yes, I need to abstain too.
Yep, Councilwoman Clark and Councilman Burnett for abstention. Thank you. Amendments are approved. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Yeah. Mr. President, I have three amendments, floor amendments, that I sent out by email to my colleagues. I'd like to move those three amendments as a package.
Second. Point of order.
We got a second on the floor, Councilman. There's already a second.
For a point of order.
Yeah, we have to, but we'll come right back to you. There's a second.
I believe I'm in, Mr. President, respectfully, I believe I'm entitled to a point of order on a motion, correct?
1 second. You can, yeah. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, if it pleases you and the council, I would greatly appreciate, again, just a 30-second overview, no more than that, from Chairman Reisinger as to what these amendments are, so as to avoid any potential confusion over the two previous amendments discussed. Thank you for your consideration, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Yeah, Councilman Costello, the one amendment is regards to HABC, that they preempt federal and state law. They control the rent increases. And the second amendment, the HABC requested that be in the bill. It's an amendment. The second is clarity of how a late fee is defined, and it provides that fees that are prohibited, the landlord can't come back after the pandemic ends wanting to increase that fee. The third one is I don't have a printer, so I don't have it all in front of me. Maybe the president could help me out, but I know that it was on page 1, line 5, strike out termination and prohibition of the date. And Mr. President, could you help me with the third one, because you and I both discussed this?
Yeah, 1 second, Councilman. I am going to bring up the third amendment here. Give me 1 second.
I apologize, Councilman Costello. I don't have a printer, so I can't.
All right. 1 second.
Mr. Council President.
Yes, Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. The third amendment, I believe, makes it so that the Environmental Control Board cannot issue a fine to landlords for having already issued a late fee or rent increase up to the point of the passage of this bill. Those tenants would still be empowered by this law, as it would prohibit those rent increases retroactively and prohibit those fines retroactively, but it would keep the city from issuing an Environmental Control Board citation immediately to cite them for that. Tenants remain still empowered. They still benefit from this retroactively.
Councilman, I actually have it now. Councilman Dorsey's explanation of the amendments are spot on. This is a way to protect both on both sides of the aisle, so to speak. This is something that we think makes the bill stronger and is able to help as we guide throughout this process. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey again.
Thank you. Mr. Council President, this is a parliamentary question, I think. I have placed a second to the motion on the floor to move these amendments. but I believe there is a drafting error in one, and a separate motion must be made. If I may explain, Mr. Council President.
Please do.
In the two amendments from Councilman Reisinger, the first amendment is numbered number 1, and the second amendment is numbered number 3. This may be inconsequential. I don't know, but I would say I believe that a motion to alter the amendment without it having been printed is required.
Yes, so that's a motion from Councilman Dorsey to amend the amendment to change the number from 3 to 2.
And I believe this requires a waiving of the rules, as the rules of the City Council require that amendment brought from the floor be printed in a form required by law.
Sorry, 1 second, Councilman Rodriguez. Councilman
Yeah,
Dorsey.
Mr. President, Councilman Dorsey is correct. That is my error. What's happening, it's technical in nature in regards to moving the numbers. Amendment number 1 is good. Amendment number 2 no longer exists, so 2 becomes 3. So Councilman Dorsey is correct. Is that what you're saying, Councilman?
Yes, sir.
You guys, remember, you guys have to address me and not each other, even though you can address me.
I'm sorry, Council President.
It's fine. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Mr. Council President, I like to make a motion to waive the necessary rules in order to alter the amendment to renumber it for technical reasons to number 2, where it says number 3. Councilman Reisinger's amendment.
Without objection, the rule will be waived. Chair recognizes Councilman Seifel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted just some clarity on that first amendment that was offered. Were you saying that those in public housing are allowed to get increases?
Mr. Council President.
No, I got it, Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you.
No, what's being said is that, as we talked about this in the hearing, we are prohibited from saying to HABC because there's federal law that already says that the Fed set that for them. Right. We can't tell them that they can't do it. This is just adding that to the bill, making it clear for everyone that the reason why we cannot say to HBC that this can't happen is because we're precluded from doing so by law.
So does it mean that they're able to raise rents during these times?
That is up to the federal government. They could, technically, but we cannot tell the city of Baltimore City what to do. And so, again, because of federal law that precludes us from doing so.
Okay, well, I would hope that they would lead by example and obviously not raise rent on people during these times.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Mr. Council President, there's a motion on the floor to waive the rules in order to allow for the amending of this amendment without it being drafted.
All those, without objection, the rules will be waived. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I move to amend Councilman Reisinger's amendment in order to renumber number 3 to number 2.
All those in favor of approving the amendment, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
Abstaining.
Please note Councilman Burnett, Councilman Clark, and Clark as abstentions. Chair recognizes all of the ayes have it. Amendment is adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman Rodriguez.
Mr. President, I move the amendments, the floor amendments.
All those in favor of moving the floor amendment, say aye.
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 Abstain.
All opposed, say nay. Please note that Councilwoman Clark, Councilman Burnett are abstentions. The floor amendments are approved. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, I'd like to move the bill favorable as amended.
All those in favor of approving the bill, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Same.
Stay.
Please note that Councilwoman Wolf and Councilman Burnett abstain. Chair recognizes that the bill is approved. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, at this time, I'd like to move the bill with the amendments from second reader to third reader on the same day.
So you want to invoke Rule 12-1?
Yes. 12-1.
Thank you. Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. This bill will move to third.
Roll call.
Roll call, sorry. Roll call. Yes.
Councilman Cole.
Yes.
Councilwoman McCray.
Yes.
Councilman Dorsey.
Yes.
Councilman Henry. Councilman Henry. Councilman Schleifer.
Yes.
Vice President Middleton.
Yes.
Councilman Pink.
Yes.
Councilman Burnett.
Same.
Councilman Bullock.
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger.
Yes.
Councilman Costello.
Yes.
Councilman Stokes. Councilman, thank you. Councilwoman Sneed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark.
Abstain.
Councilman Henry is back.
Councilman Henry.
Yes.
Thank you. The ayes have it, and this bill will move to third reader today. Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0503. University of Maryland at Baltimore approving application for designation as a rise zone, granting enhanced local property tax credit.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee heard this bill through a virtual hearing on April 30th, 2020. The sponsor was Councilman John Bullock. I yield to Councilman Bullock if he has anything to say before we move forward about the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing very pressing. Again, the University of Maryland's been a great partner. It's a big part of the rejuvenation of West Baltimore along Martin King.
Councilman Bullock, I hope, Councilman, you still have to be recognized before you talk because we have to worry about the jump. Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you again, Mr. President. So again, thank you, Madam Chair. As I was about to mention, again, University of Maryland is a great partner. We're looking for rejuvenation of Baltimore City and along with Martin King Boulevard. So again, thank you for your attention to this matter.
Chair recognizes Councilman Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this bill was recommended favorable, and I move to vote on the bill. It's recommended favorable.
All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Yeah, please note Councilman Costello as a abstention. All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader. Third reader requiring the invocation of City Council Rule 12-1 for same-day advance from second to third reader.
City Council Bill 20-0526, Baltimore City COVID-19 Renter Relief Act. Actually, Mr. President, I need to adjust that title because we had an amendment to that effect. Just one more moment. City Council Bill 20-0526, Baltimore City COVID-19 Rent Increase Protection Act.
Move.
Oh, you're muted, Caleb.
President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Wolfie,
Good.
Henry, Schleifer, Vice President Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Costello, Stokes, Snead, Clark.
Abstain.
Please note, Councilwoman Clark and Councilman Burnett's abstention. This bill is approved. Third reader for final passage.
City Council Bill 19-0441, Charter Amendment, Charter Review Commission. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Snead, Clark.
Nay.
Please note, Councilman Costello is a nay. This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 19-0449, Zoning, Use Regulation, Neighborhood Commercial Establishments. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Snead, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 19-0465, Port Covington District and Port Covington Community Benefits District Management Authority. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry.
Nay.
Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Snead, Clark.
Please note, Councilman Dorsey as a nay. This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 20-0484, Midtown Community Benefits District and Management Authority. Renewal through June 30, 2024. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Snead, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 20-0491, Charter Amendment, City Auditor, Powers and Duties. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Snead, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 20-0518, RPP Area 2, Morgan, Plan Amendment. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Snead, Clark.
This bill is approved.
Mr. President, I was on mute. I was a nay on Council Bill 20-491, Charter Amendments.
Yep, duly noted. Duly noted.
Mr. President.
This bill is approved. Committee announcements. Members, when you hear your committee, please proceed with your committee announcement. Budget and Appropriations Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Budget and Appropriations Committee will hold a hearing on Wednesday, these are all for Budget and Appropriations Committee. We will hold a hearing on Wednesday, May 27th at 3 p.m. This will be a virtual WebEx meeting on Council Resolution 17-0003R, quarterly budget briefings. On that same day at 3:01 p.m., we will hold a virtual WebEx meeting on Council Resolution 17-0004R, budget oversight hearings for Baltimore City Public Schools. Those will be our two oversight hearings for fiscal year 2020, quarter 3. As has been customary the previous years, we will follow that immediately after Mr. President. I move to suspend Rules 10.3 to announce a hearing.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will hold a hearing on Wednesday, May 27th at 3:01 p.m. on Council Bill 20-0527. This is the Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. For all our listeners out there, this is our annual budget. I would like to note that for Council Bill 20-0528, the annual property tax for fiscal year 2021, which is one of the 3 accompanying bills. So we have the Ordinance of Estimates, we have the annual property tax bill, that the Baltimore City's constant yield tax rate will be published in the Baltimore Sun newspaper on Saturday, May 16th, 2020, per charter requirements. I would also note that the 3rd accompanying bill, Mr. President, which is the Baltimore City contribution to Baltimore City Public School System, which has not yet been introduced yet, will be voted on by the Baltimore City School Board tomorrow, Tuesday, May 12th. If passed, it will be introduced to the full City Council on May 18th at our next regularly scheduled City Council meeting, and that will be included for the 3:01 p.m. hearing, Mr. President. In addition, I move to suspend Rule 10.2 and 10.3 to announce a hearing.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. Rules are suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Wednesday, May 27th at 5 p.m., we will hold a hearing on Council Bill 20-0528. That is the second of the three bills I just mentioned, the annual property tax for fiscal year 21. This hearing is also referred to as Taxpayers' Night. Taxpayers' Night provides the residents of Baltimore City a unique opportunity to share comments and concerns about the city's budget. As with the previous hearings, this will be a virtual WebEx hearing. Mr. President, I move to suspend Rule 10.3 to announce a hearing.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. On June 8th through June 12th, the committee will hear Council Bill 20-0527. This is the ordinance of estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021. The budget hearings will be held the entire week. The hearing schedule will be published on the City Council website upon its completion. In working with your office, Mr. President, as well as the Mayor's Office of Government Relations, my expectation is to have a schedule completed and disseminated to the entire council on May 18th, Monday, May 18th. Mr. President, just as a reminder for our colleagues that were unable to join us for the council lunch today, I sent an email out this morning to everyone. I would ask each council member to review that, to look at the schedule from last year to determine which of the smaller agencies they would like to hear from during the budget process, and provide a response to me by no later than call of business on Wednesday, May 13th, so your input can be taken into consideration in the development of the schedule for this year. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. You don't have anything for your other committees?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Education and Youth Committee. Councilman Cohen?
No business needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Equity and Structure Committee, Councilman Henry?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Equity and Structure Committee will meet on Thursday, May 21st at 11 a.m. virtually through WebEx. We will hear City Council 17-0097, Charter Amendment Tenant Legal Assistance Fund. Charter Amendment Tenant Legal Assistance Fund, sponsored by Councilman Stokes.
All right. Thank you. Executive Appointments Committee, Councilman Stokes? All right. Health Committee, Councilman Burnett?
Why am I?
I don't have anything to announce, Mr. President.
Thank you. Housing and Urban Affairs Committee, Councilman Bullock?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Housing and Urban Affairs Committee will be having a virtual hearing on Tuesday, June 9th for City Council Bill 20-0502. That will be at 3:30 p.m., and that is for the Woodbury Historic District. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Labor Committee, Councilwoman Sneed?
No, I don't have anything.
Legislative Investigations, Councilman Burnett? Nope.
Nothing doing.
Land Use Committee, Councilman Reisinger?
Mr. Chair, members of the council, the Land Use Committee will hold a hearing on Wednesday, June the 17th at 1 p.m. on Bill 19-0417. That's zoning. It's a conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to two dwelling units in the R8 zoning district with variances located at 1410 West Saratoga Street. That's a virtual hearing. The committee will hold a virtual hearing on Wednesday, June the 17th at 1:05 p.m. with Bill 19-0475. That's zoning, conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to two dwelling units in the R8 zoning district located at 806 Reservoir Street. The committee will also hold a virtual hearing on Wednesday, June the 17th at 1:10 p.m. on Bill 20-0494. That's zoning. It's a conditional use banquet hall located at 5401 Bel Air Road. The committee will also hold a virtual hearing on Wednesday, June the 24th at 1 p.m. on Bill 19-0474. That's a rezoning located at 3925 Gulf Street. The committee will hold a virtual hearing on Wednesday, June the 24th at 1:05 p.m. on Bill 20-0487. That's zoning conditional use, Ordinance 18-170. The committee will also hold a virtual hearing on Wednesday, June the 24th at 1:10 p.m. on Bill 20-0497. Zoning is conditional use parking lot located a portion of the property known as 201 Reedboat Avenue. And the last is the committee will hold a hearing on Wednesday, July 8th at 1 p.m. on Bill 20-0512. This will be zoning at 1301 East Wood Avenue, and that is also virtual. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Public Safety Committee.
No announcements at this time.
Thank you. Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few, so hold tight. The first bill from the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee will hear City Council Bill 20-0511, the sale of property, that's the former bed of Cromwell Street, Thursday, May 21st, 2020, a virtual hearing at 10 a.m. We also have 4 bond issues that will be, the first one will be heard on Thursday, June 4th, 2020 at 11 a.m. and that's bill number 20-0514, and that's a bond issue, the Affordable Housing Loan, $12 million. That will also be shown on Charm TV. We will also hear on Thursday, June 4th, 2020, City Council Bill 20-0515, and that's a bond issue for the school loans, $38 million, and that will be heard at 11:01 a.m. Virtual hearing on Charm TV. Again, that's June 4th. We will also hear City Council Bill 20-0516, and that's a bond issue with the Community and Economic Development, $38 million, heard at 11:02 a.m. Also on the 4th, June 4th, 2020. And then lastly, City Council Bill 20-0517. That's a bond issue, the Public Infrastructure Loan, which is $72 million, and that will be also heard on Thursday, June 4th, 2020 at 11:03 a.m. Virtual hearing on Charm TV. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the bill that you introduced tonight pertains specifically to COVID-19 circumstances, and I would like to be as expeditious about hearing this as possible. I'd like to waive the rules in order to announce a hearing this week.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. The Transportation Committee will hold a hearing on Bill 20-0532 this Wednesday, 2 days from today, May 13th at 3 p.m. via WebEx.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend rules 10.2 and 10.3 to announce a hearing.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Judiciary Committee will hold a hearing on Thursday, May 14th at 2:01 p.m. for Council Bill 20-0223R, approval for the exchange of a Class BD7 license for use at 3607 Fleet Street to a Class A7 license for use at 5601 Eastern Avenue, known as 5701A Fleet Street. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Then there are no more committee announcements. We will now move to regular announcements. And thank you all for today. As we know, this evening there have already been 104 homicides in the city of Baltimore as of this morning. I want to ask the Council Vice President to honor a moment of silence with them. Every single day we have to plan Baltimore's recovery from COVID, but we also have to discuss how our city cannot simply just return to life as before COVID. We have to imagine how can Baltimore be better. And when we are going through these dual crises, we cannot allow the epidemic of gun violence to get lost. Because just like COVID-19, these are families that are being destroyed. These are communities that are being interrupted. And if we put the same amount of energy and the same weight of the entire city government into dealing with gun violence as we are doing with COVID, I know that we could succeed. That's what's lagging right now. We have to have that same focus, that same intensity for both of these dual crises that we are living through that are altering the future of our city. We cannot forget one for the other. They both must be addressed equally from all sides of city government. And I'm going to go in reverse order. Councilwoman Clark, any regular announcements?
No, Mr. President, I don't. I totally agree with you on this issue. There are many opportunities that will grow out of rebuilding Baltimore. We've talked about zero waste. We've approved a bill about zero waste. But part of zero waste that needs to begin now is creating those living wage jobs we've talked about and are realistic to recycle, to be able to pull items out of the waste stream, convert them into products that people will buy, and be able to employ people from our city, and as well as help people start businesses doing that. It works elsewhere. Let's try very hard to remember that when we emerge, it should be a different and better Baltimore. And I might add that not just getting rid of the smokestack is what we need, but we sure need it. But also the ground we work on, and to all pay attention to the kind of pesticides that are on that ground and affecting us in the food we eat and the children that we raise. So there's a lot that we've already explored that could lead to a better future. And that's just environmental issues. The human issues are the hardest and strongest for us to look at. And one of the things we have to do with the environment and everything else is develop businesses for the people who live here to make money from the people who live here and begin to get very localized in everything we do. And thank you very much for this opportunity to say a few words about what I'm thinking about these days, along with when will our constituents ever get through to the unemployment line? That is, right now, I think for many of us, the huge issue of how to get through and calling and never getting through. That we got to solve that here, if there's any way to do it now. Thank you all.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Sneed.
I just want to recognize some of our young people that would have been graduating from high school, heading to college. Many of them won't be going to their proms this year, let alone their graduations. And normally this time of the year when they're preparing for their proms, they're normally making their own dresses and suits and being creative about what they've done in school for this time. And so I just want to recognize and take a moment to really cheer up some of our young people who may feel a little down about what's happening with COVID and them not being able to be around their friends and getting ready for such a joyous occasion, normally memories that we have for a lifetime that we look back on. And COVID has totally stolen that away for some of our young people. So I just want to tell them that to stay encouraged, and hopefully something can be planned on later on for them, but we're thinking about them.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Mr. President, I just want to thank Burger King of Baltimore, who's going to feed every nurse and doctor in Hopkins for lunch, and also every teacher and educator in the 12th district in the schools will get free lunch from Burger King of Baltimore. Also, I want to thank Rick Landry in the mayor's office, who's working with our young men who are, they call them squeaky kids, I call them intersection entrepreneurs. I talked to Jamal Lewis yesterday, and Jamal Lewis is going to be hiring a lot of them up until July, and they're going to be making at least $120 a week. So I want to thank Jamal Lewis and for giving me that call so we can hire some of them young men who actually need money every day, but they're going to be able to work all the way through July to make $120 a week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Three things. There are far too many people to thank in our city right now, but this challenge is obviously bringing out the best of us. And you know, there are incredible people doing incredible work all across our city in all walks of life. So just a thank you to everyone. Mr. President, I'd like to thank you for finally giving some love to the backside of this council. It's tough waiting to be the 11th person to speak every single time. I know that my colleagues, Councilwoman Clark, Sneed, and Stokes will appreciate that, so thank you. Lastly, I want to remind everyone of the importance of filling out the census. Right now, we are at 48.3% participation citywide. I know that our goal is 73%. We are punching way out of our weight class right now in comparison to other cities of similar size and demographic across the country. It's something to be proud of, but we have a lot more work to do. We know that federal funding is contingent upon a population. It's absolutely critical that we all spread the word about the importance of filling out the census. So please fill out your census for those listening at home, and encourage your neighbors, friends, and family to do the same. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Reisinger. No. Councilman Bullock. No. Councilman Burnett. No. Councilman Pinkett.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Councilman Costello said, there are so many heroes in our city during this time that it would take an entire council hearing to name all the heroes. But I just wanted to call out a few who stood with me this weekend as we were able to feed over 300 people in West Baltimore, specifically the Franciscan Center of Baltimore. They've just been tremendous in the work that they've been doing, even prior to this pandemic. And so they even had a Mother's Day event today where they served some of our most vulnerable women. I'm just making them feel good today. And so I want to commend them to that. And then in addition, a part of that group is St. Martin's Church, Bishop Daniels, Bright Horizon, the Druid Heights CDC, and the men's group, We Are Us. I'm proud of that group in that even now that we have the social distance, they didn't stop their involvement in the community. They just transitioned. And so now they're just helping to provide resources. And so just wanted to highlight a few of the heroes that are in our community that continue to do the work on a daily basis, serving our most vulnerable population. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Seifel, we will come back to the Council Vice President. Councilman Seifel, you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Thank you. Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unfortunately, or possibly fortunately, Councilwoman Clark, Councilwoman Sneed, and Councilman Costello already managed to hit every single one of the points that I was going to make, so I yield the remainder of my time to Councilman Dorsey.
Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I want to reiterate that I'm really thankful to you for bringing forth this resolution tonight, that we voted for immediate adoption to support the override of the veto from Governor Hogan on the Kerwin Fund. Hogan, the governor, delivered a whole mess of vetoes last week, and presented all of them essentially under the auspice of fiscal prudence, and it just does not hold up. It doesn't hold water when put to the test. And I want to thank my constituent, Vinnie DeMarco, at the Maryland Citizens Health Initiative, for being a part of being on the front line of challenging things like this that don't make sense. One of those vetoes from the governor was of SB 669, HB 1095, which would establish a dedicated funding source to support the work of the Maryland Prescription Drug Affordability Board. This would have returned $750,000 to state coffers, so it would have actually generated revenue for the state, and at the same time would have helped to control the cost of prescription drugs, pharmaceuticals, in order to make it more affordable for Marylanders to get the health care treatment that they need and deserve to have access to. So it really doesn't hold up to the scrutiny of saying that this is in any way about fiscal prudence. This is pure politics, and I just want to put a point on that and say how important it is that we support the General Assembly in overriding as many of these vetoes as possible. The other point that I wanted to, I want to ask for a moment of silence here because I recently got one of those constituent service calls that, you know, is going to stick with you forever. And it's just tragic, and I'll just never forget it. And so I want to express my deepest sympathies to my friend and constituent, Rebecca Belleville, on the loss of her husband, Eric Pugh. And I want to ask for a moment of silence for him and for us to just pray for consideration for their 2.5-year-old son who will grow up without their father. And I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman McRae, anything? Oh, Councilman Cole.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Councilman Costello said, there have been a lot of folks who stepped up in a lot of ways during this crisis. One group that I want to recognize is a group that came together called Community United, where we know that around food distribution, one community that often gets left out is our immigrant community, lacking access to, in some cases, stimulus money, state, federal aid. So we had a group come together, consists of some churches, some community organizations, some nonprofits, Comité de Latino, which is a mostly Latino-serving community association, Delegate Learman, my office, to make feeding our immigrant neighbors a priority, both documented and undocumented, and I'm grateful for the collaboration and the work that went into that. Thank you, Mr. President. Oh, one more, sorry. This Wednesday, teaming up with Ekiben, they are going to be distributing their bird sandwiches over in O'Donnell Heights. So come on out, get yourself one of the best chicken sandwich in Baltimore. And that is all I got this Wednesday.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Council Vice President Mills. You're on mute, Madam Vice President.
Before I close out, I agree with my colleagues. There's been so many organizations and people that have participated in food distribution. I just want to really recognize a center that is basically open every single day, and you can go there for food like 9 to 9, and I'm sure most of you know how busy the Langston Hughes Community and Resource Center has been, not just for food, but for all types of services. I also, through this, people are doing blood drives, because blood drives are very important as well. And I want to give a shout out to the 06 Riders MC Bike Club, which are also brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. They did a successful blood drive on Saturday. On that note, the next council meeting will be held virtually on May 18th, 2020. And may we have a moment of silence for Mr. Eric Pugh, and also for the now 104 victims of homicide, and our continued prayers for the families of the opioid epidemic and the people that are experiencing deaths and pain through this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. There being no further business, this concludes the 83rd meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council.